And we are now live with Myriacast. Our production value has increased ever so slightly. And
with a few technical
with a few
difficulties,
technical
you know.
difficulties. The the issue was I thought I had set it up with the audio on the mixer in OBS and it was playing, but Spoon said he couldn't hear it. So he just muted himself and we just did it live. We just did it anyway.
Yeah, doing it live.
So, hello everybody who is in chat. I already see a couple of familiar faces. Russell and Vis, welcome. Let's get the intro out of the way really quickly. I'm going to try and breeze through this so we can get as much time as possible on Fire Emblem, because I know that Spoon really loves the series, and this is a great series from my perspective as well. So, Myriathon, quick highlights of Myriathon. We are a charity group that focuses on marathons and gaming. So, upcoming June 11th to 14th, we'll be having our gaming marathon over the course of that 72 hours. Not straight this time. We're not doing that straight this year. We'll be supporting Exodus Road for now, although that might be shifting to something else due to recent events. And speaking of recent events, we are going to be supporting, as of right now, Direct Relief efforts to help with the coronavirus. So please go ahead and type !donate if you're interested. Any support goes directly to them. It's for great cause, and we really would appreciate you guys at least taking a look and sharing with your friends and family. I think, like, for me personally, this is really important, and I think this is something that everybody should focus in on and take seriously. Let me see here. What else? Oh, and finally, again, I'm just going to round this out quickly. Please don't forget to support us on Twitch, obviously, by throwing a follow if you can and telling some people about it. Spoon and I are really working, I think, pretty hard in promoting this and getting this out. We're putting polls and such on Twitter, and we don't typically use Twitter. Also, speaking of Twitter, Spoon has a Twitter. Spoon, what's your Twitter?
At SPT Spoon.
At SPT Spoon. He tweets sometimes. He also streams on his Twitch channel currently with Kingdom Hearts right now. Spoon, just want to quickly talk about that.
Oh yeah. Since I'm in medical school, I could not play the KH3 DLC until I got home, which was recently. And so yeah, I'm playing through the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC right now, beating all the super bosses. I'm actually on the secret episode right now, which is the final super boss of that. So that's been exciting. Twitch.tv/SPTSpoon. Also, shout outs. It is actually Otto's birthday, so everyone give a happy birthday to Otto today.
Yep, I'm old, guys. I'm 31. I'm older than
Yeah.
our entire audience. So, let's keep going. So I have a Twitter as well. Most Myriacast updates and like things will come from mine. That's at Automaton89, and also we have the Myriathon Twitter at the Myriathon. And then finally, I want to round this out with VODs will be going up on YouTube. You can see it on the overlay, the space Myriathon. Please type that into the search bar on YouTube. And also SoundCloud goes to Automaton89. The audio will go up there. Okay, now that that's out of the way, today's episode is on Fire Emblem. So, Spoon and I were talking a bit right before this started, and obviously, for him, he's played the earlier series of games. I'm just speaking specifically on GBA series, and also you played Path of not Radiant Dawn, but Path of Radiance, right?
I've played all of the games from FE6 onwards.
Okay.
I haven't beaten every single one, but I've beaten almost all of them. So yeah, I haven't played anything before FE6,
Okay.
which is The Binding Blade. And that was a Japanese only release. The first one that was released here in the West was Fire Emblem 7, which in the West they just called it Fire Emblem, but the subtitle of it is the Blazing Sword. Um, so yeah, that was released. The first game that was released here in the West, which was released on the Game Boy Advance in 2003. So
And that was before my interest in those. Anything that involves that series or before, like, we'll say 20 Shadow Dragon for DS came out what,
2000,
2000?
according to what I'm looking at, 2008.
Okay,
So
2008. So
eight or nine, probably. Maybe that was the Japanese
yeah.
release.
And
But
you and some other people in college kind of directed me to that one because you guys were playing it, and I was like, okay, well, I don't know, why not? And that was for the first Fire Emblem game in the series. Like, I enjoyed it, but we'll talk about that one later. Um, let's just talk as a whole about. I mean, we can always talk about the newer games in the series, and we definitely will. You can see in the agenda we have some like talking points on new additions to the series, good or bad, or however we feel about it. And like I said, I haven't talked about the GBA games, so you're more than welcome to speak on that. But the the series as a whole, for me, is fairly unique. I don't want to say like the genre is unique, but I think that the game caught me at a good time and it had a nice flavor to it. And I kind of enjoyed the strategy part of it. And like, whenever you turned the difficulty up, it really was hard. So
yeah,
that appealed to me in the best way possible. And I
yeah.
think like yeah, it was just like something that was new and unique, and especially when it was out for the mobile devices, it was really good to just like play in like the car or just like just go like bring it somewhere, play for an hour or so, and then just be able to put it down and just chug a bunch of hours in on the go. I don't know when you like specifically got interested.
Um, well, sorry, I lost a little bit of what you were saying. I had a little internet blip there,
Oh
but
goody, this will
heard your
happen.
I heard your question, which was how I got interested in the series, and I think like a lot of people who originally played the series, I got interested not like by the series itself really, but by Super Smash Brothers Melee. Super
Okay.
Smash Brothers Melee had two characters in it when that game came out, Marth and Roy. And if you looked into what the characters were from, it said Fire Emblem, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"What's Fire Emblem? I've never heard of that before." And had some music from Fire Emblem in it, and then I don't remember how. Maybe it came with a Nintendo Power or something. I had this sound CD of like basically Super Smash, like orchestral Super Smash Brothers Melee music.
Hmm.
I think I got it from a Nintendo Power or something. I don't remember. And like my brother and I both really took to both the Fire Emblem characters in the game. Like I liked playing them, and then the music was like really awesome. The tracks they had on that CD, and then eventually, back when magazines were a thing and I had Nintendo Power, I'm sure Nintendo Power did a thing on when they were deciding to finally bring Fire Emblem over. I was like, all right, this game looks cool. Ended up buying the GBA game Fire Emblem. I don't know if I got it like on the release date, but probably pretty close to, and fell in love with it real quick. Um, you didn't quite go over it. You mentioned it, but I guess I'll just say for people who maybe are watching this and aren't familiar with the
Hmm.
series, Fire Emblem is a Japanese strategy RPG
Hmm.
series. There are 16 games in the series, dating all the way back to the NES on the very
Oh,
first
that's
Fire
yeah,
Emblem.
that's got to be like early '90s, maybe even late
Yeah,
'80s.
no, I think like I want to say 89
Yeah,
is like the
'89 would
first
make
game.
sense,
I think they've had like 30 years of the series.
which is
And as
incredible. Which is
and
incredible.
as I said before, the first game to released here in the West was Fire Emblem 7: The Blazing Sword on the Game Boy Advance in 2003.
Okay.
So, yeah. Um, but yeah, strategy RPG series, a medieval setting. Generally, the stories revolve around times of war and like
Yeah.
dragons. You basically like build up an army to like fight whatever what the threat is, the evil army or the evil
Evil
dragons
person.
or
Yeah.
whatever it
Whatever it
is
is.
in 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 the games.
Yeah. Usually the villain or the boss is like a similar archetype, not like the same personality and such, but it's like okay, there's like an evil kingdom or a person who's like a mythical creature, like dragon in this case, is like sometimes it's a little bit different. I think Three Houses we'll talk about later. That was kind of an interesting. I don't want to say deviation, but it had an interesting and provoking, we'll say, a thought provoking conflict to say, okay, well, who?
Yeah.
Obviously, you have like
I,
the choice of side, but I want to like quickly highlight something you said that caught your interest was music. The music in Fire Emblem, I can never go wrong with it. I've never had a bad track in Fire Emblem. Like,
Yeah,
touch my
and
ears.
Yakataka, we if you guys were here before we actually started talking, the intro scene played a couple of tracks from Fire Emblem. The
Mm-hmm.
first one being the main theme from Radiant Dawn, which is
Yes.
my favorite rendition of the Fire Emblem main theme, which is it's a very iconic theme. I'm sure everyone's heard it before. Maybe if you're not that into the series, you couldn't place it, but I'm sure most people who are into video games and have played like Smash Brothers or something, I'm
Right.
sure you've heard the
You've
Fire
probably
Emblem
heard
theme.
it once if you've been
Yeah,
involved in the series at all. And the second one I played was a Three Houses opening theme, which I thought it's
yeah,
pretty good. It's nice.
yeah. It's good.
I mean, it's like I said, I've never heard a bad track from Fire Emblem, which is really something that I don't think is common actually. Like games with just like tracks that you're like, okay, there's a couple good ones, but everything else is just sort of mediocre or bad. But
Yeah.
Fire Emblem puts out a lot of good tracks. So let's see. Let's talk about some of the newer games. Just in general. So I don't know. Let's sort of continue on the theme of the bad guys in Three Houses. So just for full transparency from my end, I don't remember particularly well like the Awakening and like Fates final bosses like at all. I played Conquest for Fates. I don't remember much about the final bosses. The one thing I remember most of all the Fire Emblem games though is the Three Houses ones because each house had its own, we'll call it final boss. So you played Black Eagle's
Black
house.
Eagle, Black Eagles, Crimson Flower route. Just
Right.
just to differentiate, because if you choose Black Eagles, there's actually a route split,
Yeah.
um, in the game. So you can either, spoiler alert, you can either choose to side with Edelgard or side with the Church
Right.
at near the end of part one in the Eagles route.
And
And
so,
as to Vis's comment, sorry, real quick, I think most people would agree with Conquest being
well,
better than Birthright.
we're gonna get to that. We're
Yeah,
getting
we'll
to
get to
that.
Fates. We'll talk about Fates at some point. Yeah,
Definitely talk about that. That's like a huge one for both of us to talk about. But so with we'll say the Edelgard route, just because.
yeah, Edelgard
Um,
route.
what's the final ending to that one? Again, this is a spoiler zone, so just
Yeah,
if you don't want to spoil, get out.
we're in spoiler territory. We're talking about the end of Three Houses right now. So
There's going to be a lot of it, I think.
and for me, I've only beaten the Black Eagles route. I haven't
Mm.
played any. Like, I started a Blue Lions route and I petered out about like halfway through part one. I think I just got
It's a
like a little
burnout.
tired of it.
It's a real burnout
Um,
sometimes.
um, the final boss is Rhea in her
Okay.
like dragon
Oh,
her dragon
okay.
form, the
Dragon Ray,
immaculate
yeah.
one. And yeah, you take down Rhea, you take down the church, you bring peace to Fodlan under the new empire,
Under
under
this
Edelgard.
new
Yeah,
Edelgard regime,
yeah,
which I mean, we've talked about this, okay? So we've had conversations, and like some of it I was joking about it.
yeah.
But let's
Kind of
have a
being
real
into it.
conversation about this. So the Golden Deer route, that's the one I beat. I didn't play Blue Lions just because I've heard that the Blue Lions and Golden Deer routes are similar for the most part when you go into combats, except for the final ending. The Golden Deer ending feels like I don't want to say because the Edelgard ending is a satisfactory ending and it feels like an ending. The Golden Deer
It
ending has like two different endings to me. It's got you defeat Edelgard, you take her down, and after that, Nemesis ends up waking up, and this is like the weirdest part of the game for me because you get Nemesis waking up, and just like they call it those who slither in the dark, which by the way I hate that name. That's not a name, that's a description.
Yeah,
So they got like Nemesis pops out of the ground, and he becomes the boss, and his arena is himself with a bunch of other bosses in it. It's really difficult. I haven't played it on Maddening yet. I'm going through it. We'll see, but it's really challenging, and he becomes the final boss, and you defeat Edelgard, and then you have to defeat this guy to bring peace to Fodlan, which is like a really weird thing. And Blue Lions, to my knowledge, doesn't have this route.
yeah. From my knowledge, again, I haven't played any of the other routes except Crimson Flower, but to my knowledge, Golden Deer is actually the only route that does that. That does the Nemesis
which,
thing at the end.
which is
So,
it,
and you mentioned it earlier. Or you kind of said something, but like I actually think the Black Eagles route is incomplete.
it feels
Like
incomplete. It
it
feels like
feels
it.
it feels here's what I think happened. It feels tacked on because the way they promoted the game like, okay, you have these three houses, but when they were promoting the game, everyone loved Edelgard, and you knew that like most of the people were gonna choose Black Eagles, and that's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yep.
When the game came out, it was like about 50% of the people who played chose Black Eagles, and then like 25% chose Blue Lions, 25%
Yeah.
chose Golden Deer.
Yeah.
So I think originally the game, when you played Black Eagles, there was no choice. It was just church route. And they had to tack on the Edelgard route because people would have been so mad if they had their waifu Edelgard and couldn't like side with her.
Yeah.
So the Edelgard route to me feels very tacked on, which is a little bit unfortunate. And they also talk about in part two of the Edelgard route, there's a couple of cutscenes here where they're like, yeah, like we know those who slither in the dark, like they're evil, and we'll deal with them, but we gotta take down the church and the crests and all
Right.
that first. And I'm like, cool, we'll deal with that. And then you take down the church, and it just ends. I'm like, wait, where were my last like 3 or 4 chapters where I deal with those who
Yeah.
slither in the dark? What happened?
And
I don't know.
to be
Like,
100% clear, the Golden Deer, it is only like 2 or 3 extra chapters. So they could have basically copy and pasted the maps. They really could have, and it wouldn't have. I don't know. I don't think anybody would have been that upset. It would have made sense. It's just weird because in Golden Deer, she acknowledges to you as a character that they exist and you have to stop them. She's like, okay, you've defeated me, great, but here's a bigger threat. And it's like,
Edelgard,
yeah,
Edelgard says that to you when
yes.
you
She
defeat her?
basically
Okay,
points
yeah,
you in the right direction. Like you get like a note, and it's like, yeah, go over here.
yeah.
And I'm like, when you told me about this, you're like, oh yeah, you beat the church and it just stops. I'm like, what about Nemesis? And he's like, oh, there's no Nemesis chapters. And I was like, wait a second,
Like, yeah,
there should be.
that is how I
It,
felt like, and I agree. They could have just like, I know they're probably pressed for time, but they literally could have just like, they would have had to change the cutscenes a little bit, obviously, but
sure,
they could have just like tacked on this. They put like literally the exact same maps that the Gold Deer one has and just called it a day. Like,
right.
adjusted the cutscenes a little bit for the Black Eagles characters. Like,
It feels weird, like having we were talking about it. Okay, so I'm going to segue now to the conversation about the final boss again. So Nemesis is the final boss for one. Edelgard is Rhea, okay,
yeah,
and Blue Lines.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure Blue
yeah,
Lines is just
one.
Edelgard again.
Yeah, I think again, I haven't finished Blue Lions and I haven't seen the end of it either, but I think it's just
I think it's
Edelgard.
just
Like,
Edelgard. Sorry,
Dimitri has a thing for
yeah,
Edelgard. He's like, he hates her.
he hates her a
Like,
lot, and she's like the final boss in that one. So for me, you go through the game, and like you're Golden Deer, so you obviously don't get this choice. You just do what they do. You don't get to choose. But you actually like in the Black Eagles one, and I don't know how much support conversation you get with Edelgard outside of Black Eagles. Can't get that much. Edelgard does go into some detail about her backstory and about the stuff that she's been through, and it's not just it's not light. Actually, just as another comment, a lot of these characters have really heavy backstories.
yeah,
I would say a lot. Like there are a fair number that do. Actually, the one I think is probably the worst in my opinion. Not to sort of like dismiss the Edelgard one. Lysithea has a really
well, Edelgard and Lysithea have very similar
they're very
backstories. Like,
similar,
they
and
were
it's
they were
really
both
bad.
like, the reason they both have like white hair and both have two crests is because they were experimented on. Like,
Right.
they're probably different people who did it, or like, again, I haven't played Golden Deer, so I don't know Lysithea's.
I can give
But
some
I
on that.
but I know that Edelgard and Lysithea have like very similar backstories in terms of
Yeah.
that stuff, at least.
Oh my god.
Like,
So Lysithea's, and I've actually listened to some of Edelgard's. Lysithea's is she was experimented on as a child to get these two crests to be like this. I don't want to say like super being,
child.
yeah, super child.
Yeah, super
And
baby.
her life expectancy is basically like 25. She'll die at 25. She says she's like, okay. Currently, after the war, she gets to be like 21. She'll die within a couple years afterward, and like just because of all the experimentation. But like, it definitely like the character shows that she's a super being because she's a walking nuke. She just. I was playing maddening difficulty yesterday. I was trying to finish up a map where you reclaim Blaine, who had been captured or kidnapped by the Black Knight or whatever his name is.
That's chapter 6.
Six or seven, yeah, six, yeah, six. It's maddening difficulty, and it's like it's not just hard. They like basically soup up the levels of the enemies. They're always like 4 or 5 levels ahead of you for whatever reason. She just like one shots the Death Knight because she has the
Dark spikes.
The dark spikes ability. I mean, she's a walking nuke, and it's crazy. So like it's clear that she's like not only with her story been experimented on, but she's a powerful character. So obviously, I appreciated that she was really powerful to follow up on that backstory. But yeah, her backstory was really tough to follow along. But
yeah,
with Edelgard, when you go through the Golden Deer segment, even just in general, you do these missions as the professor, and you go like you go against these like other church factions, and you keep bringing them back, and every time you bring them back, Rhea is basically like, oh well, you're a non-believer to our side, so off with their heads. And it's just like,
yeah,
there's really no other way to put it. She just
they don't portray the church in a very good light for most of the game.
Dude.
I mean, again, I haven't played the church route. Maybe it's better. Probably it's better in the church route.
No,
but I don't know.
it's not.
Like,
it's not.
Okay.
They just execute everybody. It's like
great.
the worst possible scenario, and the worst way to sort of like focus on the church. And it's just like, even when you go through the Golden Deer route, there's something up with this with these people, and you're just like not always comfortable getting them in.
Like, yeah, the church is a freaking cult.
It feels like it. And you're just like executing everybody. Like, oh, you don't believe us? Yeah. So I can definitely see the Edelgard position of not just from her backstory, but okay, something's going on here. If you don't follow these people, they just kill you, and there's no question about it. You either convert or you die. That's what it feels like. So, and even afterwards, when you're challenging Edelgard, you like save Rhea, but it still feels a little weird. Like you do beat Nemesis and it feels better, and the church. No, Claude takes control, and he like fixes everything and makes it the most like he like takes some of the power away from the church, I think, and he like sort of like brings things together in a better way than just having the church be like, you're either with us or against us. Which is good. That feels like the most wholesome ending for everybody. The Edelgard route is just like, I'm gonna conquer you all, and you're gonna do what I say.
I mean,
it's yeah, there's more to it, obviously, and you could talk about that.
It's not like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like that. It's basically just this world is rotten, so she just wants to fundamentally change the structure of Fodlan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the church is rotten, the focus on crests is completely rotten, and she's basically like, I'm going to take down these stigmas built around the church and crests, and yeah, I mean, if you don't agree with me, then you're standing in my way and I will kill you.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a little bit
it's aggressive, but
yeah, it's very aggressive. But she believes that the only way to reform the world is through just like all out war. So she just starts the war. Like, you're either with me, and she does kind of go like the church way on that, where like she's either like, you're either with me or against me. So if you stand in my way, I'll take you down. Like,
yeah, and not to say that she's wrong in some of those ways. Like she definitely she makes valid points, and
it's
she
definitely
does like
it's definitely an extreme solution.
Oh, of course.
Though. Like,
I joked about it. It's like, well, she's pure evil. You gotta stop her, but it's not really fully that way.
I'm sure the other routes portray Edelgard as like much more evil than that. Like, when you play Edelgard's route, like, it makes a lot of sense. But like, I'm sure when you play the other routes, probably especially Blue Lions,
yeah, Blue Lions,
like,
I'm sure it's really bad.
Edelgard is just like pure evil.
Yeah. So in Golden Deer, you don't get that sense, but you still have to stop her because she's causing chaos. I mean, the big thing with Claude and the Golden Deer is like, okay, we're gonna stop all this chaos. We're gonna bring things together. We're gonna take a lot of the power away from the church, and we're just gonna have this new vision for how things work out, and it's gonna be built away from the church. It'll still exist, but it's not gonna have the same power it did before. Which, like, it was the center of Fodlan. It got to sit in the center of it, and it had so much control. So Claude just wants, like, yeah, he basically just wants everyone to get along. I mean, that's a great way to put it.
Claude's just a nice guy.
He's just a nice guy, and he does, like, he does a pretty good job. The game does a good job of making him feel like, okay, he's a really nice guy. He's probably he's a bit silly, lighthearted, but at the same time, it's not like his ideals are going to be. He's not necessarily like, oh, I'm not going to take this seriously. He just is a little lighthearted. Blue Lions, I mean, like, neither of us have played Blue Lions fully, but
yeah,
I think, like I said, it's an interesting way to develop. Okay, there's these different villains from perspective, which I think is really a good thing. It's a good thing. It's sort of thought provoking to see both sides of it. Yeah. What else? What other stuff do you want to touch on? Before going into, like, all the new stuff, or we can talk about Conquest. Oh, Fate.
Yeah, one thing that I think we didn't touch on that is, in my opinion, a very important aspect to the series is permadeath.
Oh yeah, permadeath. Yeah.
This is a thing that has existed, I believe, since the first Fire Emblem game, and basically the way it works is if any of your units like dies, is reduced to 0 hit points in a battle, they die, and they die forever.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously if it's one of the lords or like the main character, it's a game over and you just have to restart the chapter.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things that I like. People, I think, were kind of like scared of the series beforehand because of it. They're like, "Oh, permadeath! Like, I don't want that. Like, that sounds way too hardcore for me, and like that's sucks." And like I get it, but I don't know. I'm a purist with Fire Emblem. Like, I never play. So in with I believe Awakening was or was Awakening the first game that had casual mode, or was
Yeah,
it?
it's one of those. It was either that or Conquest, because there
Is
was
either
one in
Awakening or
Conquest.
Fates.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Fates.
I know there was in Fates, and I'm trying to remember if Awakening. I think yeah,
I
Awakening
don't know.
has casual
Yeah,
mode.
it's casual. Okay.
So Awakening is the first game, unless it was in New Mystery, but New Mystery didn't come out here, so I don't really know anything about New Mystery. They added something in Awakening called casual mode, which basically disables permadeath. It's like if a character dies, they will just come back
Next.
after the current
After the
chapter.
yeah, after
Assuming
the chapter. Yeah.
I assume if a lord dies that it's still a
It's a
game
game
over
over,
and
I
you have
think.
to
Yeah,
restart
I
the
think it's a
chapter.
game over still.
So I guess it's less of a barrier to entry for newer players who want to get into this series. But again, in my opinion, as someone who has played these games since the GBA and played like 6 or 7 games without casual mode being in it, I am a purist and I will always play on classic because I believe that if you make a mistake and someone dies, then it should have consequences. Where I mean, in the newer games, it's less than that because they added turn wheel or divine
Divine
pulse
Pulse is the
in
three.
Three
Yep, three
Houses.
houses one.
Um,
Which is, it's nice for some things, but yeah, the fact that you can sort of manually activate does.
I like the idea of it because it was definitely frustrating in the older games if you lost a character because of the RNG. Basically, like, you didn't really make a tactical misplay. Like, maybe it was risky, but it wasn't like maybe you had to take the risk in order, it was your best possible move at the time, and then you died to like a 1% crit, or like you miss like a 95 or something like that and the character dies, or like you miss like 280s in a row and it's like, really, game, I gotta reset. Like, I don't want this character to die, so I gotta reset the chapter. Either that or you just let the character die, which is like a legitimate like thing. And yeah, like Ghost is saying in chat, like I like the idea of turn wheel slash divine pulse to mitigate those sort of like RNG based deaths.
Hmm.
But it gets way too many charges. Like at the end of the game, you have like 12 charges or so. It's like you can literally just use them willy nilly. It just like doesn't
Oh
matter.
yeah,
I think
you
it
get a
should have
lot.
like 3 or 4, maybe 5, like absolute maximum by the end of the game. Like
So
so,
I'm playing on maddening, and I spam divine pulse sometimes, and
yeah.
there's a
I
reason
mean,
for that.
that's maddening.
Maddening is like all the enemies in the main missions are like 4 or 5 levels ahead of you, and they just crack you. It's just crazy. Sometimes you like make a movement, and then you like look at where the enemies are pointing, because in Three Houses they actually show where they're going to attack, and like you see where the enemy's movement is able to go, and then like I've made almost a full end turn where I've said, okay, I'll move everybody, and then I divine pulse backwards to redo it. I've basically
Yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna go backwards to reset and like make different choices to move. I've had very few situations where I've divine pulse to stop a character I liked from dying. Like I lost Raphael, I lost Beefcake, and that
Oh
was
no.
like a tough one. But I've had like lords die and it game over, which it makes sense. But I've also had ones where I've gone through the turn and like I'm just like I don't like what I just did here. I'm gonna go backwards, and reset that. So I think like for that situation, it's kind of nice to just like reset yourself, which you can't like save in the map. So it sort of like saves you from restarting the map, so to speak,
Yeah.
or like
That's
bookmarking and
that's the other thing interesting is like you can like bookmark like if you're in the middle of a map and need to stop, you can like bookmark and stop and save that way,
yeah,
but you can't like
can't go backwards.
you can't reset the RNG basically.
Yeah,
And this was true in the GBA games. I always found it like really interesting how they programmed this. But like if you're playing one of the GBA games, if you like have a character die, for example, and then you just like if you would shut off your GBA or reset it in some way, either shut it off or do like the soft reset thing,
sure.
and booted the game back up, did resume chapter, like so yeah, if you shut off the GBA, it would just automatically bookmark wherever you were, just as a reference point. So you hit resume chapter, and the first thing that would happen is exactly what just happened is your character dying. It would go right back into combat and show your character dying. Like it would not change the RNG. It's like if that happened, it happened. And again, I don't know
Yeah.
how they programmed it like through the reset or whatever, but I thought it was cool.
I mean,
Like
it's good to like prevent that kind of thing. I think that's like
yeah,
I think that's a good thing for the series in particular. For some people, it's frustrating, but that's part of the reason why you need to take your time. In harder difficulties, I go through the entire turn, like flipping through all the enemies, flip through the team. Is okay. Where exactly do I need to position everybody? And even then, like I said, I'll divine pulse backwards just to fix it. I mean,
yeah,
I like divine pulse for that. I will use it for that. I spam it, so I'm like running out of charges for that. But that prevents me from just being like, oh, I don't like how I position myself. Reset the system and restart a map. That's that's even worse. So that's just how I played it.
yeah. Divine Pulse just like again, it saves time because again, previously if you had a character die or maybe you didn't like a move you made or you would literally have to reset the chapter. There was no way to go back.
Mhm.
Or even if it was like it was a misclick or something like that cuz like that happens. Sometimes you'll like misclick in turn or like misclick a wait on a unit you didn't want to wait or something. You're like, "Oh crap." And then like you can't take it
Right. I
back
mean, it's just like
until Divine Pulse like
I've definitely misclicked, and that's like,
oh yeah. No, I've
yeah,
definitely had times where like I would misclick an end turn. Like I would move
yeah,
like one unit and like I thought I was hovering over another unit or something, and I would just click end turn with only moving like one unit or something. And I was like, okay, I did not want to do that.
yeah.
Like
Ugh. Whoops. Um, I think the original point was about the casual mode thing, but
yeah,
I will say, I think I don't play on casual mode. I've never played on casual mode before. I can see a person just wanting to play the game for. I wanted to say fun, but like play it for the sake of like mostly just enjoying themselves and like having some, we'll call it light strategic challenge.
Yeah.
Um, but there's also like the I hate to do this one. There's the Dark Souls argument, which is like, don't put a casual mode on a hard
Get
game and reduce
get
its,
good get good
you know,
scrub.
yeah, it's like don't put a casual mode on a purposely difficult game to reduce its integrity, which I'm not necessarily a fan of that argument, because I think,
Yeah.
okay, if somebody wants to just play the game to go through it and enjoy themselves, and like maybe they just don't have the time to crunch out
Yeah.
so many hours, I'm on board.
And reset every time they
Yeah,
die.
I'm on board with that, and that way
Yeah, no.
people who want to
I
get
don't
challenged get
I,
challenged.
as I said, I don't dislike the idea of it. I like that it probably brought in a lot of new players to the series and introduced people to the series. Again, I just won't ever use it
Sure.
personally, and I think like once you've become acquainted with the series and like once you understand how it works and are becoming a little more veteran with it, and if you have the time, I think like classic mode is the authentic experience. I believe you should play Fire Emblem on classic mode, but again, if because you don't have time or you just don't want to deal with the challenge or whatever, again, I'm not gonna berate anybody
Yeah.
for
No,
playing casual mode. Like if you want to play casual mode, go ahead and play casual mode. But I just don't think it's the authentic
we're,
Fire Emblem experience.
yeah. I
Like
don't think either of us are the difficulty like
no,
enforcer person,
no,
which you get sometimes
absolutely
in
not.
certain
And
communities, which I won't talk
and
about.
even personally, like maddening mode looks terrible to me. I don't want to play that ever. It just doesn't look fun.
It's
Like
it you at first it's horrible and you want to pull your hair out, but you eventually figure out what to do. You figure it out, and you like sort of understand how to approach every turn on a map, and it's slow. You
yeah, I've
spend
heard it's a slog. I've heard it's a
twice or
slog.
three
Like
times as much time, but once you finish those, like once I nuked the Death Knight, oh, I felt good. Oh, I
yeah,
felt good after that. I was like,
yeah,
okay, I'm good. Took hours, but we're good. We're done. We killed the Death Knight for this. We're good. And then you sort of move on and you get back to the hub, and the hub is kind of nice to get like a breather from. Um, what yeah, I mean, okay. Let's talk about some new additions to the game, because we're gonna
yeah,
eventually get to all of our other stuff, I think, later,
yeah,
particularly with like Awakening or Fates
yeah.
and all the other ones.
So we talked about casual mode already. That was a
That
new
was a new
addition. Not
addition.
to Three Houses, but to Awakening.
Yeah,
But
to
in the last
Awakening.
couple of
Yep.
games, like
Another new one to Awakening was the Avatar. Well, for yeah, I think
New Mystery had the
Okay,
Avatar, but
but
again, that
that
didn't come
was
out
yeah.
here. Where neither of us have played it. I don't know anybody who's played it. So, and again, it was a remake of Fire Emblem 3. But they just added the Avatar into it for whatever reason. I don't know. I didn't play it, so I don't have anything to say about New Mystery. So
But Awakening, we have something to
yeah,
say about. So
Awakening. Yeah,
that was at the time, I thought I really liked it. So at the time, I was like, okay, this is cool. You get to play as you bring your own creative character in, and that creative character gets immersed into the world, and that creative character doesn't. I don't know how much talking points they got. I don't know if they got much at all, but they did like some talking,
um,
like outside of like certain
Robin.
cutscenes. Yeah, Robin. They talked in support stuff, but there
Yep,
was
support. There were
some.
no. I don't think there were any like choices in
There wasn't
Awakening,
any choices.
but
Okay,
I think Robin had like lines. I
the
think
lines.
Robin
Yeah.
contributed to the story like any normal character
Okay.
would, or
So
main character
yeah.
would.
So they did
And
contribute.
just as a baseline, I at least in my opinion, Robin is. It's been a while since I played Awakening, so maybe I'm misremembering. But Robin is my favorite of the avatars, of the ones that I've played, which is after that Fates and then Three Houses.
Byleth is
Um,
the worst one.
I actually might disagree with that. I
Oh
think Corin
really?
Corin is
Corin? You
pretty
think Corin's worse?
awful
Okay.
in Fates.
I don't know. I don't
Like,
hate Corin that much. I'm playing it right now, so I'm sort of like figuring out if Corin's worse than I thought again, or better. But Byleth just seems super boring. So Byleth
yeah,
just like feels
no.
boring.
Neither is good. Both Byleth and Corin suck.
Yeah.
Robin is like I wouldn't say he's good, but he's unintrusive. He's just kind of
Okay.
there.
He's just kind of yeah.
Like,
Well, in any case, you get this creative character, male or female, in all the games, and this is also the start of the relationships too, which we'll get
Waifu
to.
Emblem.
Which 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 we'll get to waifu emblem. I don't know how much more you want to talk about the created characters, but I personally really liked it at first. I thought it was a nice addition to the game to to elicit not just the relationship stuff, but like give you this like support between characters. Like
Yeah.
you sort of get to support with the characters, which is kind of interesting. Um and
It's
like
not all
yeah,
bad.
it's not all
It has
bad.
its positives. Um, but I don't think they've executed it. I don't think they've executed it in like either way as either like so Byleth is much more of like a self-insert because you get all these like dialogue choices and Byleth like never speaks except for like in
Right.
cutscenes and a couple battle quotes like here and there.
Right.
Um and that's like part of his character, like even in like the early parts of the game they talk about how like he's basically a mute, is like he never speaks, he
Which you're
doesn't have
like
any emotions.
the
Like
silent protagonist, which you're like,
all
okay,
right.
those are tough to deal
um
with.
let's just like again, it's been a while since I played Awakening, so I don't remember Robin that well, but let's just go through the avatars in the 3 games, I guess.
Robin
So there's
had some stuff to contribute.
Robin was very important to the main plot of that
Mm-hmm.
game. Like again, I don't remember the specifics, but like the very opening cutscene of the game shows Robin after you beat like the tutorial,
Mm-hmm.
shows Robin like stabbing Crom and like killing Crom, and you're
Mm-hmm.
like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And again, I don't exactly remember like how that resolves itself. Oh yeah, there's like a time loop in that
It's a
game,
time
so you
loop,
like
yep.
undo it or like because Lucina comes back and tells you what was gonna happen and you fix it.
And
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, Robin was like the soul of Grima, the Dark Dragon, or
Yeah.
something
Something
like
like
that.
that. It's like, and that's
S
like the end boss too. He's like you're
Yeah.
almost like fighting yourself at the end. It's what it looks like.
So yeah, I think Robin, like I don't remember having very many choices in that game. Robin to me is very you know, he's just non-intrusive. He's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of there. I generally like the story in Awakening. I think it's like pretty good. It's one of my more preferred stories in Fire Emblem, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has time travel, but I think the time travel in it is done like relatively well. It's
Yeah,
not perfect,
it's not
obviously,
horrible.
but
It's not horrible.
it's not super like contrived or super invasive. Like it's there as a mechanism for the you like to be able to reverse, like for Lucina to come back and then like tell you what's going to happen so you can fix the mistakes
Reverse.
that they made, and then in order to get the children characters into the game, like those are the two
Yeah,
reasons
that's
time travel exists in the
yeah.
story.
Which
um
it's yeah, the time travel wasn't horrible. It yeah, definitely not horrible. I mean, we're not going to talk about like the logic of time travel in these games, but it wasn't something where I was like, ugh, bleh.
yeah.
But that's
um
which is good.
and yeah, Robin's just kind of there. He or she is an important character to the story. They serve their purpose. Again, I don't remember getting very many choices. They are ridiculously overpowered in terms of gameplay. Like Robin is broken in that
All the
game.
avatars are
Like
really strong.
yeah,
All the
that's true.
avatars
All
are
of them are broken.
ridiculously strong.
Like
Which for me it doesn't like break the game obviously, but it's just like you are so powerful. You're not always the OP character, but you're really powerful. You're not always the OP
yeah,
character.
yeah.
There's definitely an OP character in some of those games where you're just like, this is the one. This is the Lysithea is like that. Like Lysithea is more powerful than
Yeah.
you in a certain context.
Byleth is pretty
It's
freaking
really
good
powerful, but like
in Three
Lysithea
Houses.
nukes. She's the nuke. She can one shot
Yeah.
almost everything. Um, but the avatar is
Yeah.
always really powerful.
Well, okay. Corin like isn't that good. Like the thing about Fates is like none of your units are that. There's a couple of really good units in Fates, but
A couple.
like stats in general are just like deflated in Fates. Like defenses in general, yeah, Corrin's defenses are pretty terrible in Fates generally, but offensively Corrin's a really strong
Yeah,
character. Um,
he's above average for sure. Like the idea is the avatars are typically above average. They're good. At
I
least
know
they're
like
supposed to
the
be.
speed run, for example, like for Fire Emblem Fates, like solos the game with Corrin basically. So
I
okay,
mean, yeah, it's
I
just like
mean,
you get the OP one or at least
yeah.
one or two and just spam those.
But again, part of it is because obviously, like Corrin is in every single chapter in the entire game, so you're
Sure.
able to build up Corrin really early on and then just
Yeah.
get him
No,
or her OP.
yeah,
But
you're
anyways,
right.
we're not talking about speedruns here. So I guess we talked about Awakening a little bit from what we remember. Let's move on to Fates, the avatar, at least in Fates, and that's Corrin, or at
Corrin.
least that the default name is Corrin. Um, and to me, again, Corrin is again, you don't really get choices like in Three Houses, at least from what I remember.
You
You're
don't.
playing it
No, you don't. You
now.
don't get
Yeah,
choices.
they're just part of the story. The problem to me with Corrin is the I have a lot of um
Start
naughty
with
words.
one. Start with
I,
one thing that
no,
isn't a naughty.
I have a lot of naughty words I want to use to describe this, but I'm not going to because we're on
We're on this.
family
This is a
safe.
family friendly podcast.
Corrin is put up on a pedestal. Corrin is just like the center of the story, and like even though like Corrin is like a newbie, and like we have people like Ryoma and Xander,
Xander, yep.
from depending on which side you're on, who are like generals of the army, and they're like way more qualified to do anything. But no, Corrin is the savior. Corrin is the greatest. It's just like it's just I'm sorry. It's just Avatar stroking in that game. It's just
Yeah.
like ridiculous.
So
Like
I'm with you there. I'm playing it again, so the beginning, the idea obviously of the game is Corrin is a kidnapped child. He was kidnapped as a child when he was like maybe even younger than one. Kidnapped by the Nor, I think it's called,
yep,
kingdom. By starts with a G. I forgot his name again.
King
Um,
Gangrel. Is it
Gangrel. That's
Gangrel?
it. So Gangrel kidnaps you, and then he like sends you on some missions out of the castle. Finally, by the time you're like, I don't remember the age of Corrin. It's probably like 16 to 18. Okay, hopefully it's 18 for reasons I'll talk about later.
Oh, Garen. Yeah, Gangrel's a different game, but it is Garen. That's right.
Garen. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you for the corrections. See, we're gonna get corrected quite a bit. But anyway, you're like 16 or 18. You finally get let out of the castle, and he sends you on some tests. But eventually, what happens is you fall into this pit and are recovered by the Hoshido, right? Is it Hoshido? Oh, I forgot the name.
Yeah, Hoshido's
Hoshido,
right.
yes. So it's a Hoshido kingdom. They like. So you start thinking you're a child of the Nor kingdom, but then you discover, uh, you know, you also discover that you're actually a child from the Hoshido kingdom,
Who was
who was
kidnapped
kidnapped.
as a child.
So both kingdoms siblings, I'm not going to say the rulers because obviously Garen doesn't really care about you at all, but both kingdom siblings want you to join their army because for Hoshido, it's because you were kidnapped. So it kind of makes sense that they want you back. They're like, okay, we want you back. You were kidnapped. Like we really care about. We missed you. We missed the brother. The brother was lost, and the mother's killed by Garen, and you get to the battlefield. And this is my problem with this game right here. This is the most unbelievable in the worst way scenario I've ever seen. Your mother is killed in front of you, and he breaks down about it. He gets on the battlefield, looks at the Nor kingdom, and in Conquest you go with that kingdom. So he's like, yeah, I'll go with you guys, even though you like are the reason for all this evil, and you killed my mother, and you kidnapped me. But you guys, you're still the family I grew up with. Which I'm like, okay, let's pause. Let's pause here. This is weird. Like the kids, I actually like the kids from the Nor kingdom. I like them a lot. I like that they're just like, oh, we're gonna the Norian siblings. I like them a lot actually because they're just like, okay, we'll do what the king says, but we'll sort of like do it in an underhanded way, or we'll go behind his back. they like know that there's something wrong going on, and so I like them a lot. But like, is the Norian kingdom really a choice? Is my problem. It's like, is this
It's also
really
like
a choice?
it's also not a choice because it's based on which game you bought.
Yeah,
You don't get a choice. If you bought Birthright, you have to choose Hoshido.
Yeah.
If you bought Conquest, you have to choose Nor. And only if you bought the expansions where you can have like all three on your thing. And then there's Revelations, which I haven't played and heard is just god awful.
Yeah, we've heard it's
That
terrible.
there's like a mid path where you save the world by making everybody friends or something.
Oh.
I don't know. I've not played it. I don't know what it's about. I heard it's stupid and terrible, so I don't plan to.
I will comment. I don't think the Norian siblings are that spineless. I will comment from Ghost. I don't really think they're that spineless. They definitely are afraid though. There's a lot of fear. I wouldn't say they're necessarily spineless though. I think that like when I hear that, it makes them feel like they're like insignificant. They definitely have their methods of trying to benefit you. So I don't think they're spineless. They're just afraid. So that's something I just want to clear that up. I don't want it to make it feel like they're like these cowardly characters. I think they have like they have their courage, but right now they have like a certain way of doing things. And yeah, they're just like they're too afraid right now. Eventually they'll sort of overcome that. But it for me, I wouldn't necessarily say they're cowards. I think they're just trying to do the best thing they can with what they can with what they've got. And yeah, Xander's the general of the army, but how much power does he really have in that situation? So this is like this is my other thing. It's like, okay, Xander has as much power as Garen gives him. Garen is the one that holds everything. He holds every single card in this kingdom for obvious reasons. So I think for me, like with Conquest, do I like the game? Not really. There's tons of things I hate about it, especially the Great Wall of Takumi. But there's just like I don't want to say like certain parts of the game are like the Avatar character is just like this.
Corrin is just, as I said, he's just put up, he or she again, is just put up on a pedestal in that game. It's just like, this character is the messiah, they're a god, we should listen to everything they say. Even though, like, again, before the game, Corrin had literally just been, like, locked in a tower his entire life.
Yeah.
No life experience, no battle experience, nothing. He had, like, a slight bit of training from, like, Xander in, like, combat, basically.
That's it. That is it.
But other than that, it's like, oh my god, Corrin is just the messiah. And again, I think it's just like stroking the player's ego. It's just offensive. Like,
it is a bit much. It is a bit much.
To me, the gameplay, like, I have issues with the gameplay in Fates, but like overall, I don't hate it. Like, it's still Fire Emblem, so it's still pretty fun. And the map design in Conquest overall is like very good. I can't quite say the same for Birthright. It's not quite as good. Most people would agree that Conquest is the best of the three, at least gameplay wise. But the entire story of Fates is just garbage. Like, it's awful. It actually, in my opinion, the story in Fates detracts from the experience. Like, it's that bad. Like,
I don't know at what point does it get to be like, okay, let's actually clear this up. Because at what point for you, because you finished Birthright. Am I
finished Birthright, and I've played like half of Conquest.
Let's focus on your Birthright experience. At one point in Birthright,
it's been a while, but yeah.
Do you remember at what point you said this is a bad story at all? Was it the beginning, or was it at the end, or was it in the middle? Because for me, I'm playing the beginning of Conquest, and like, yeah, it's super unrealistic, but I haven't gotten to a point where like, yeah, this is stupid. This is just really bad, stupid. I've just gotten to it where, okay, this is an unrealistic choice to do Conquest because I'm forced to do it.
The choice is bad. The villain, King Garen, he's just like, he's so uninteresting. He's just evil. He's Dr. Meanman. He's just like,
he is so boring.
I'm evil and I want to conquer the world. He's like the most bland villain I've ever seen. Like, and I know, again, if you play Revelations, I think there's more to it. I think there's like a Dark Dragon influence or something weird going on.
There is a Dark Dragon influence.
But still, in that case, Mr. Dark Dragon, who's controlling Garen, is just evil. Like, they just want to conquer the world. Who cares? Like,
yeah.
Again,
Garen's pretty boring. I'm with you there.
The characters in Fates are like very one note and uninteresting. Um, let's see what else. I mean,
trying to think of any characters that
like
break that.
there's just nothing interesting about the story to me. It's again like the villain is uninteresting, the characters are uninteresting, the choice makes no sense and is stupid and depends on which game you buy, which is
Mm-hmm.
also stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Corrin is put on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like the. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's been too long. Like, I don't remember the specifics of the story or like what point I decided it was
Sure.
bad. But like, I stopped caring about the story like pretty early on. I
Okay.
think, and it was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna play the game. I
So
guess. I just hate it. I
yeah,
just
yeah.
hate it so much.
Garen, like playing through it now, Garen's manipulation is even bad. His manipulation efforts are completely transparent, and it's just like your character. I feel like he should know what Garen's going to do next. Your character gets a sword that's emanating black energy,
Yeah,
and it's just like it's called something evil. It's called like what's the sword's name? It's like Gengar.
it's called the Yato, the
No.
original one.
The one that he
Oh,
gives you is the
oh,
Fates
okay.
Gen.
I don't remember.
I don't know what it's called. It's something like Gengari or something like that. It's an evil name. And he's like,
Yeah,
take this. And he's like, okay, got it. What do I do now? It's just like, it's completely obvious what this thing is for. It's like, oh, on his right hand man is a criminal, is a barbaric criminal who's killed innocents. And even Xander's like, yeah, that guy, I arrested him for murdering
yeah.
people. Like, he's a bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
and
like,
then Iago, the other like, right-hand advisor
yeah,
who's just like they might as well just call him Jafar because he's Jafar
So
from Aladdin.
there's
Like,
Jafar, Doctor Meanbad, and Hans. His name is
and
Hans,
Yeah,
which I'm
his
like,
name is
oh my god,
Hans the
Hans.
Barbarian,
Okay, Hans.
who murders innocents for fun and drinks their blood. Like, all
Like
right.
he's just like it's just
Like,
like so obvious what's gonna happen, and I'm just like, okay, he's clearly evil. This guy's evil. This guy's clearly evil. Don't take this sword. You took it anyway. It's just like, and then he's surprised. He's like, did you manipulate me to do that? It's like, yeah, he
of
did.
course he did.
Of course he did. What do you
Well, like,
mean? There's no
well,
question.
remember in like chapter whatever, like 2 or 3 it is, you like are brought before and they capture two like Hoshidan
A tribal
people and
leader, a tribal
yeah,
character, and like a
and
ninja,
and they're
Kaze.
and Kaze and Gangrel straight is like, you like kill them, kill them now,
Kill them in front of me.
do it. I don't remember how you get out of not killing them, but somehow you get out of it. And he says he's like, if you defy him again, he'll
No,
kill you.
what
But
happens
you
is
continue to defy him, and nothing happens.
what
So
happens
whatever.
is like Leo comes in, one of the siblings,
Oh
and he
yeah,
like
yeah,
uses an
yeah.
attack, and he says, no, that won't kill them. It just weakens them. We never do things that father says, and
Like everything Gangrel or Garen does is it's just like from the very beginning you're like, yeah, okay, this guy's just evil.
okay,
Like
he's evil.
there's nothing else to like. He has no redeeming qualities whatsoever. He's just evil. Like he's a murder innocents. Got barbarian Hans over here kills the queen of Hoshido with evil sword and yeah, I don't
Oh,
know.
there's
Like
also something else. So at the beginning of the game too, one more comment on this because I think it's hilarious. Korim is sent to the ice village, this ice tribal village,
oh
as his
yeah,
first test coming back. And he goes to the forest and he sees a bunch of faceless. And they've said early in the game, yeah, faceless come from the Norian kingdom. They're made by the mages there. He comes across these faceless and he's like, why are these here? Wonder why these are here. I know my father sent me here. Why are these here? It's like, it's obvious. He sent them after you to kill you.
yeah.
He wants to kill you. Please see it. See this and do something. I mean, yes, the Norian siblings and Korim definitely should have acted like if we had our perfect universe, they should definitely have acted sooner. But they didn't, and you're just like in this weird situation
Well, yeah.
where you're just
You
like
had to play the game.
they're constantly just like, okay, we have to go behind his back. We have to send you a bunch of help behind his back, Garen's back. Ugh.
Like if people were smart, if the people in the conquest side were smart after chapter 6 or whenever it is that you make the decision, if you join conquest, everyone on their side is like, Gangrel's kind of evil. Should we just join the other side and just like get rid of him? That sounds good.
Yeah, that's what should have happened, actually. What should have happened,
and then the game would have been like 2 chapters long. Like, oh, Conquest, it's like 3 chapters. All right, it's done. You killed Gangrel.
To be honest, I would have liked more if the game wasn't 2 games. It was just 1 game. You start with the siblings of Conquest, and then you get some of the siblings from Birthright, and you get to that battlefield, and you look at both armies and go, what are we doing? What are we doing? Let's just go after him. He's clearly evil.
That guy, he's the problem. Get rid of him.
Yeah, like
nobody wants this war except that guy right there.
And all the characters could have just been the siblings from both parties, just like brought together on the same team. Obviously, it would have been like a really overpowered group, but it's just like that would have made a lot more sense, and I think that would have been a better resolution, even if that happened like at chapter 12 or something. You just like go through and you're doing stuff, and then you like get to the battlefield, and both armies just look at each other and go, why are we doing this? Isn't Garen just completely evil? Both siblings just like converse about it, and they like get at a table and just decide, let's just all join forces together and fight Garen at this point, as opposed to like getting through to the end of the game, killing all the Hoshidans, and then finally going, we should get rid of Garen now.
Commit genocide on Hoshido, and then, wait, no, that guy's him over there, he's the problem.
Go get that guy now. Like, we've just killed an entire kingdom. Let's go get this guy now. So yeah, that was bad. So that is bad. I will say, like, there are parts of it that I don't hate. I don't even hate the Norse siblings that much. Like, I definitely can like get the perspective of like, okay, we're too afraid to do something now. But it's silly to me that they get on the battlefield and you have to choose one of them, when it's just like the obvious answer is just combine forces. So the execution of that situation would have been it would have been 1 game, and it would have been a lot nicer, I think.
And I also, like, to be honest, I feel like maybe this isn't true, but I feel like part of Three Houses was like rehashing Fates. They're like, man, we kind of did that crappy the first time. Let's try and do it again.
They did a much better job.
Where, like, if you don't recruit students, you have to like kill them in the war phase, like, for the most part.
You do.
In 3 Houses. You actually feel like, oh man, I gotta kill like Mercedes right here. You gotta
take them out.
Hilda.
You take them out. I mean, it's definitely a different situation. It's much it's just like really well executed. So
all right, we drolled on about Fates for a while. I guess let's talk about Byleth.
Let's talk about Byleth. Yeah, let's quickly talk about Byleth. Byleth is the silent protagonist. Does he say lines besides just your choices? Not really. Just you choose the dialogue. So
he has a few lines here and there, like in some of the like the full cutscenes.
The full cutscenes, yeah.
And then he has some battle quotes and like when he levels up and stuff like that. Like,
he's completely silent. You make dialogue choices. This is a game where your dialogue rarely matters.
Like 90% of the choices you make,
the choices that do matter are like you lose some support from a character, or like you gain some. Yeah, it's like,
this is, in my opinion, we talked about it a little bit last episode with like silent protagonist and like doing it well and not doing it well, but this is another, in my opinion, poor execution of the silent protagonist. Just like Tales of Exilia 2 with Luger. Like, it's just like, it's not good.
It's just like I whenever I played through it, I was just like, I don't.
It's like, to me, it's not a good, like, I don't feel like I'm Byleth. Like, I don't feel like the choices matter and that like I'm self-inserting onto Byleth. Right. I just feel like it's a bland, emotionless character that, again, not quite as bad as Fates, but still, I mean, maybe.
Fates has dialogue, at least. Your character does get dialogue.
Sorry, I didn't finish my thought. Not as bad as Fates in the like Avatar on a pedestal thing, but it's at least pretty close. It might even be worse than Fates. Like, Byleth is put on a pedestal quite a bit in that game as well.
I don't know what Corrin becomes, but Byleth essentially is a demigod. Basically, it almost feels like it, at least to me.
But I think the other in at least in Three Houses, the main lords and the other characters feel like they have a little more agency than in
Yeah.
Fates. In Fates, it's just like Corrin. That's it. Corrin is like the only character that matters in Fates. Maybe Xander and Ryoma a little bit in like Birthright Conquest.
Yeah.
In Three Houses, like the lords are important. Like Dimitri, Claude, and Edelgard drive the story of
Yeah, they
their
do.
particular routes,
They do.
and the other characters do stuff too.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
like,
the lords in this game really are a driving force for the story as well. Like Edelgard, of course, Claude, and Dimitri obviously has his thing at the end, but Claude is a huge driving force for what his revolution. I don't know what to call it. What his like he's not Edelgard's like a revolution. Claude's more like a reformation. He's like trying to get things in a different way, not like overthrowing everything, but like, okay, let's take what we have, let's move some things around and see what and make it better that way. Yeah, Byleth in that situation, he's just watching. He's like a webcam.
yeah.
He's a webcam. He's just watching, and he like sees stuff happen, and yes, he gets to come into combat, and he's really powerful. He gets special, again, demigod powers. I don't know any other way to put it. He's the enlightened one. Like, good lord. Good
he literally,
lord.
I mean, again, spoiler alert, but he literally has like the goddess implanted inside of him. The goddess of the world, Sothis, is like implanted inside of him. That's
Yeah,
like
so that's why he's like a demigod.
Okay.
Or he's like, that one's pretty bad. I mean, that's pretty bad. The class is called the enlightened one. It's just like, it's gotta be like, okay, really? I enjoyed like the game, but Byleth as an avatar is, I think, like at least Corrin, you know who he is as a person. I don't know who Byleth is at all.
Yeah, Byleth has no personality at all.
Byleth
which
is just there.
A problem.
He's just there. There's nothing for me to say about it. He's just there.
It's a very poor execution of a silent protagonist. Again, it doesn't feel good. Like a silent protagonist is done well when like the choices matter and it feels like you are inserting you are in the story, you are part of the world. But this one doesn't feel like that. Most of the choices don't matter, as we discussed already.
Yeah.
And again, you just don't feel any connection. Like, oh, I am this character. I am Byleth. It's like, no, Byleth is just a bland, emotionless character who is a demigod.
Yeah. Feels like just like a hunk of wood.
And I think, again, I think we briefly talked about this last week, but I think the thing that bothers me the most or at least the point in the story that bothers me the most with Byleth is like the time skip, where like we have like 5 years of like war going on, where like Byleth fell in a ditch and disappeared for 5 years, and then he wakes up 5 years later, and there's this war going on, and apparently nothing has happened in 5 years, and Byleth comes back, and all of a sudden, oh, Professor's back, now we get to win the war.
Yeah, no, really.
What?
Like with the Golden Deer route, you just like sit there. Like Claude is just like, I guess, sitting around doing nothing and like holding his borders for 5 years, and he doesn't do much. In fact, the whole team is like, the reason your team gets back together is because you made a promise 5 years ago to get back together. The team's like, oh yeah, we just wanted to see if anybody would show up, and we wanted to keep our promise. I'm just like, oh my god, really? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
And they justified it as like, oh yeah, Byleth was always the one like on the battlefield giving orders, like your leadership and your instruction was always amazing. And it's like, I mean, I guess, but it's still like, and again, in like Edelgard's route, like Edelgard is supposed to be this super like charismatic, amazing leader, but like she can't do anything if Byleth isn't there. So.
Oh, thank goodness you're back! I could finally conquer Fodlan. It's like in the Golden Deer route, she is conquering most of Fodlan, and she's pushing everyone back. They basically pointed out that the Golden Deer only have their own borders left, and they're just holding. It's a stalemate. Dimitri's losing ground, according to what I got.
Okay.
And Edelgard's just pushing everybody away. But like, yeah, you just like see Claude and like Claw's just like, oh, thank goodness you're back. You can finally help
Yeah,
us
like
get through
five
this.
years. 5 years is such a long stalemate, and it's like think of like a war going on for 5 years. Like how many people died in those 5 years? Like of this state. Like like it's not like they had a peace treaty. It's like there's a war going on, and like there's probably battles going on here and there with just like again it's a stalemate. So they just fight for a while, and they're like back up. Nobody gains it. Okay, whatever. But think of how many people died in like 5 years while Byleth was asleep in a
Yeah,
ditch,
no,
and then like
it doesn't make a lot of sense, but okay.
it's that's my like thing that like makes the least sense to me and just like annoys me the most about like the story with the Avatar in that game. It's just like why?
I
It's
think it
like
should have been like I would have been okay if it was like a year or two. Like, okay,
yeah,
year or two is realistic.
maybe.
Because
I
then it's like okay, year like within a year or two, like with the story with Edelgard pushing, but like still having territory. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't see the Avatar going away just because I think it's a popular feature in general, but I'd like to see them maybe try a game where they go back to basically not having an avatar and just it's just like
Yeah,
the lords are the more the focus. I mean, again, Three Houses does it better because the lords are pretty much the focus of the story, and Byleth is just there as like a driving force, I suppose.
hmm
But
so I don't think the Avatar is going to go away, but
I
and
don't either.
I don't know if I wish it to go away, but I know it won't. And like my wish is that I wish the Avatar would exist, but have voice, but just like have a voice,
Yeah, it
and just
needs to be
have
a
its own
voice.
agency. Like
It needs to be a character. Like
yeah,
Byleth is again just a blank slate is just
what I think
awful.
would be a
Like
nice resolution is if your Avatar was the Lord, and the Lord, like you didn't necessarily like give your own decision lines. It's just like you are the Lord. Like your avatar is the Lord,
okay,
and then
yeah.
you just the Lord just plays as the Lord. So like think of like um
I mean
instead of
that's
Crom and
kind of like Corrin. It's
yeah, it's
kind of
kind
like
of like
Corrin,
Corrin, um,
but just not like
but
Corrin.
just like but better, but better.
I mean,
Um,
in a game with a better
with
story,
a better
hopefully.
story,
Like,
yeah. Because yeah, Corrin is kind of the Lord there. So, but like better story, better, more interesting Corrin, not like complete idiot, head in the clouds. Like, oh, I wonder if Garen's going to betray me. It's like, yeah, he is. It's just like, yes. Um,
yeah,
let's actually segue to why Avatar won't go away. Relationships. Avatar will never go away because I think relationships exist. Um,
yeah.
this is the reason why it won't go away. The relationship thing was probably their most popular feature they've added recently. I think for sure. Can I say that? Like,
I
is that like a
I
thing?
mean, I don't know if that's true, but I would not be
I
surprised if it
wouldn't be
was.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the relationship thing with with like the marriage stuff outside of that was like one of the most popular things added to the games recently. Because like there are some popular things and there are some interesting changes which I want to touch on when we talk a bit about some of the mechanics of the game. But this is not going to go away. This is a really popular feature. It also just like it allows the avatar or you in this case to you know
Pick your favorite
I
waifu.
mean get more involved and become more immersed into the characters side of these games. The character hub that was the central hub that was added. Actually, the central hub was in Fates, and
Yeah,
then
they have the My Castle,
a
which
castle.
I mean,
Uh,
to me, it's just there.
It's
Like it
just there.
doesn't
Yeah, it's just
serve
there.
much of a purpose, to be
It's just
honest.
a
But
break.
it's
Then there's the castle in this game, which is
the monastery.
yeah, monastery, more three dimensional. Just like nice. Falls off later in the game, but
Yeah,
is really nice during the game, and it's interesting having like all the different activities. But the relationships thing and like marriage is it's definitely not going to go away. It's definitely controversial with Fates. We've discussed this. I don't want to talk about it in detail just because it's a little bit uh I think too controversial for us. My thing is just okay, you're in Birthright's case, I think there was a discussion on this in the game, in Revelations or in Birthright, I hope. You can have relationships with those other siblings.
yeah. there are incestual relationships in Fates.
And I'm just
It's oof.
I was never a fan of it. In Birthright, it's really bad. In Conquest, it's pretty bad still. It's weird. I don't want to talk about it too deep just because of the nature of this podcast, but that's a really big monk ass. And Awakening had its funny relationships we've talked about. We won't talk about them here, but I think there's some pretty funny. Just like sometimes the relationships can be funny and just like humorous when you put in a certain light. Yeah, with Three Houses, I think everybody had their own relationships. I have a couple of like various different polls I just want to touch on. I'm not going to like bring them up or anything, but um, some of the popular, I have some of the popular male and female characters from Three Houses in particular, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with marriage, but I think it matters for relationships because I'm assuming that if a character is popular, the person probably had like a relationship with them or like was involved with them more often than not. This is from Famitsu. This is a Japanese magazine. So, um, the the most popular female characters, and I'll talk about male ones too. The most popular female characters were. I'm just going to talk about the first five. Number 5 was Ingrid. She's Blue Lion's Pegasus rider.
Yep.
Or I made her the Pegasus rider. Edelgard was number 4. Okay. I think Edelgard is just like extremely popular here, but I guess there it's like still top 5. But Hilda's number 3, Lysithia's number 2, which thought was interesting, and Bernadetta is number 1 on this list, which I thought was interesting. I think you had talked about her a little bit, but when we've talked sometimes, but that was interesting to me.
I'll comment on that real quick. In my playthrough, I went for Edelgard just because I decided that I was going to go for Edelgard before I even played the game. But
a lot of people did, I'm sure.
Bernadetta was actually my favorite character, female character.
Mhm.
Actually, maybe my favorite character on the Black Eagles. Her C supports are like really rough because if you get a bunch of her C supports in a row, they're like all the same. And her character quirk is she just always like hides in her room and she's scared of people and all that. So like her C supports are like very one note and like honestly get really annoying after a while. And that's like, again, I won't go on a long tangent on this, but there were just like there are so many supports in Three Houses, and like you'll unlock a bunch of them at once. And again, especially the C supports for a lot of the characters, there a lot of them are very similar. So like having to watch a bunch of C supports in a row is actually like kind of annoying in the game.
Yeah,
so
sometimes
I'm not sure I like how they 100% how they handled that, but whatever.
Some of them I just eventually started skipping the C's because I was like, okay, this feels like the same too.
It's the same thing. But Bernadetta, like I loved her backstory, and once she like finally opened up and got, I love like Bernadetta was super cute. I love Bernadetta.
I didn't get too far on her supports, but like I said, she was funny. She was funny, but like her supports, I imagine she also was one of those with like a very difficult backstory. I don't know why, but a lot of them have like really tough backstories. You're just like, ooh man, another one. Oh gosh, another one.
Yeah,
but that's just the nature of the environment.
I can tell you if you want, but
no, you go for it, please, go for it.
Okay, yeah. Spoiler alert for Bernadetta's backstory. Basically, like she is the way she is because like her father. Let's see if I get this right. Her father like wanted her to be like a perfect like basically what like be a perfect wife and like be marriageable material, and like I think she wasn't down with that. Basically, her father like ended up like beating her and like locking her in her room, like doing awful things to like try and make her the perfect. Again, I don't remember the context of exactly like why he did these things, but like she didn't like follow like his way of thinking of like being the perfect wife, so he just like beat her and stuff like that, and made her feel like she was worthless and a terrible person, so she just shut herself away and locked herself in. That's the long and short of it. Like,
yep. I mean, it's just like some of them have that kind of backstory, and that's just
it
is part of the environment too. I mean, like part of the environment. Some of their stories involve the crests and stuff, and that's part of the environment. just touch on the male characters. Ferdinand, Sylvian,
I am Ferdinand von Eyre.
Felix, Claude, and Dimitri is one. I like Claude. I think he's cool. I think he's like the guy Claude's the guy you go to the bar with and just hang out. And he's cool. You can have him over, play some games, go to the bar with him, hang out, cool dude. Dimitri, not so much. Dimitri at the beginning is fine. Near the end of the game, he's the guy you're just like, there goes Dimitri, don't get near him.
Felix is edgelord. Felix is the edgelord. Like,
yeah, I'll skip the other one I was going to talk about just because. And for me, the relationship thing I think is like generally a good thing, but Fates was a really bad one.
Like,
Three Houses was better.
Basically, like, I like the way they did it in Awakening. I like it made sense in the story, and like the children characters in Awakening made sense in the story, and I liked it in Awakening. And I liked the way they implemented it in Three Houses. Like, there was like maybe, this is Monka-esque because it's like teacher student, but like you can't really do the full relationships until the 5 years later in your phase. So everyone's older and we're all good. And there's also like no children characters in that game. I like the way they handled relationships.
I liked it too.
In Three Houses for the most part. Again, like all the supports unlocking at the same time was kind of annoying, but other than that, like the way they handled those systems, I like. Fates, dumpster fire. Like,
it was bad. I was extremely uncomfortable.
Minus the possible incestual relationships, which we briefly touched on before, and we won't go any further than that. The way, again, I don't think for the most part the characters are very interesting. They're all like very one note, and the supports like aren't that interesting for the most part. And secondly, like the children characters were literally just like shoehorned in that game. Like there were like portals and like weird time travel portals, and like I didn't understand how it worked.
It was bad.
It made no sense. They were just like, man, this was an Awakening and people loved it, so we got to put it in the next game. And they could not figure a way to put it in the story the right way. And yeah,
it was
basically
bad.
For me, the relationships in Fates were a dumpster fire because, again, it didn't work in the story, and I didn't think the characters were very interesting either. So that,
no, it was bad. No, I'm agreeing with you. It was
like,
bad.
Honestly, in my Birthright playthrough, like my favorite character was Hinoka, who was one of the ancestral relationship characters. So I didn't do it. I was like, I'm not doing it.
I'm out.
Like,
I'm out.
So I went with I think I went with like Oboro, who's like this Lance girl. She was okay, I guess, but like, I don't know.
It's just weird. And it's just like, this is weird. Even the characters kind of comment on it. You're just like, no, stop it. Don't. Okay. Let's move on from that. That's just like, she's, God.
Awakening 3 Houses good, Fate's bad.
Okay.
Fate's bad. No Fates.
Let's talk about some of the mechanics of these games. I want to touch on the first one. Okay. This is the first change that I think is, I actually don't know if I like it. I noticed it in Three Houses, and when I'm playing through Conquest again, I'm re-noticing it. Not to a bad degree, but the weapon triangle was a thing. In Three Houses, there's no weapon triangle, is there?
Nope, it was removed.
It's just removed. So they had it in Conquest and before, like every other game before, if I'm not mistaken.
Every game since like Fire Emblem, I want to say like 4 or 5. I don't remember exactly which game they implemented in, but it was in it for a very long time.
Yeah, and then they just... And I kind of liked it, but I mean, like, there's definitely, I'm sure there's an opinion out there that will prove to me why it should have been removed, but why was it removed?
There are a couple of theories on that.
Go. Yeah, I have no freaking clue.
Again, just theory crafting. Like, again, this is pure speculation, but in some of the Fire Emblem like YouTubers and stuff that I watched, there was speculation that possibly that in like pre-development and concepting, the sort of like battalions were going to be a little more part of the game than just kind of like a buff, and then they had gambits in the full game.
Sure.
But there was going to be like a battalion triangle of some sort with like the formations or something like that. Again, That's pure speculation, but like I guess from like some of the pre-release like screenshots and materials we saw, some people guessed about that. So like maybe that's pure speculation. That could be entirely incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, reason number two, which I think is a little bit more likely, is basically that like the way the class system works, and they just kind of want you to experiment and like move people like around and like train in different things, and that like the weapon trial would just maybe be a little too restrictive with like the way the class system works, because they
Okay.
want it to be a little more, you know, yeah, open, as opposed to like, hey, like this character's a Myrmidon, they upgrade into a sword master, they only use swords, or like, we got Cavalier, they use
Mm-hmm.
swords and lances and they're good against this. And like, to be honest, like obviously what what does the weapon like, and I thought about this when I was like looking at Three Houses and saw that like the weapon trial wasn't in the game. What does the weapon triangle like really add? Like, the weapon triangle, swords beat axes, axes beat lances, lances beat swords. And like it just kind of makes the game easier, because like the computer doesn't play with the weapon. I mean, I guess if they're an axe user and they have the choice to attack a lance user or a sword user, they'll probably attack the lance user because they
Yeah.
have the
They
higher chance
should.
to hit.
They should.
But like mostly the weapon triangle is just something for the player to like exploit, in my opinion. And like it doesn't really add that much strategy. It's just like, oh, this guy's using an axe, so I'm gonna use a sword if I can. Like
Sure.
I don't like I just don't think there's that much strategy in the weapon triangle, so I'm not sure what it adds like overall.
Well,
Like,
yeah. I mean, I can see your point. I think it definitely was like it's weird because for me, you have the weapon triangle, but there's bows and there's magic, and those things don't adhere to any weapon triangles.
in Fates they do,
Oh, in Face they do.
which was actually one change in Fates that I kind of liked. Um, in Fates, basically like swords and magic were like one group, axes and bows, and then lances, and then like daggers or like hidden weapons, the shuriken and stuff was the third. So like that's the way the triangle works.
Ah,
So like
okay.
magic was equivalent to swords, bows was equivalent to axes, and daggers/hidden weapons were equivalent
So
to
magic
lances
would have
as
been
far as
good
the
against
triangle.
bows. So magic was good
Bows.
against bows, and
Well,
then
and magic was also good against axes. Like it
yeah.
worked like
Oh, it
both
worked
ways.
both. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
And bows were good against lances, and also the
yeah.
what was the shuriken,
But
whatever it is.
bows and axes, yeah, yeah.
Shuriken was
So
okay. Yeah, I guess I just glossed over that part, but so there
yeah,
was that triangle too. But
yeah.
yeah, God, that's like an extra layer of.
And it also depends on like in some of the games, like the weapon triangle is like weaker and doesn't really have that big of an effect. Like in Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, like it's pretty minuscule. It's like 10 to 15, maybe 20% like hit and avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in like Blazing Sword, it's like 30%. It's like if you have this, it's like if you're attacking, and again, if you're a sword user, even early in the game before your stats are like inflated, if you're a sword user and you're attacking an axe user, they probably have like a 30-40% chance to hit you, and you have like 90 to 100
Mm-hmm.
probably. It's like huge deal. So
Yeah.
it depends on the game how big an effect the weapon triangle has.
Okay. Yeah, because like for me, like I said, if the weapon triangle has an effect, I can see what value it adds for like a player who wants to be more challenged, so that they can, I don't know, properly navigate through it. But at the same time, yeah, like with Three Houses, I wasn't mad about the change at all. I was like,
No.
Okay,
Well, and I think in Three Houses they added more mechanics that I think better replaced it and added more
yes,
strategy. Like combat arts. It's like, oh, do I want to use a combat art here that either does more damage to like kill something but uses more durability, or maybe does like a repositional, or
mm-hmm.
a variety of other effects, reduces the enemy's speed, or do I want to use a gambit? Like I think the tactical options they added in Three Houses were like a more than suitable replacement
Oh
for
sure,
removing the
sure,
weapon
sure, sure.
triangle.
I mean the combat arts are great, especially in maddening. I will tell you right now, combat arts are the godsend, and gambits are great, not just for the
Yeah,
monsters, but also again like preventing a unit from moving is really
moving. Yeah,
important. And then also the change that is, oh, thank you, Lord, change. Showing enemies projected attack choice is a beautiful thing that I don't even think they necessarily had to add, but it was when they added it, it makes maddening all the more tolerable to understand what enemies are projected to go for.
Really great quality of life change for Three Houses.
Oh my goodness, amazing. I'm playing through Fates and I'm like, where is it? Where is the thing? Oh, it's not here. Oh,
it's not. Yeah, Three Houses is the only game that has them. Literally.
I'm just like trying to guess where they're gonna go again. But those are awesome additions to the series. Which Weapon Triangle gone and those coming in, I'm all for that every single time. Excellent changes to the series. God, what was the other? Were there any others? I mean, like we talked about the hub. I think the hub, like in Three Houses, was great.
Let's talk about the classes.
Oh, the classes. Yeah.
This was a big change in Three Houses for sure.
I'm gonna pull up the classes on my computer just so I can see all of them.
I mean, I don't think it matters too much to talk about like what specifically the classes are.
Sure. I just want to be able to see all of them because there's a lot. There is a lot.
In previous Fire Emblem games, okay, in the earliest iteration of like the GBA games, for example, a character was one class, like again, a Myrmidon, and then you would use a specific. Once they got to level 10, you could give them a promotion item to promote them to their upgraded class, which again, in the case of Myrmidon, was Swordmaster.
Right.
And so you could promote them anywhere from level 10, and like 20 was the level cap. So if you got to level 10, you could promote anytime between level 10 and 20. Once you promote, they reset to level 1, and they could go up to 20 again. So that's the way it worked in the earlier games. A character was one class, you couldn't change the class, and you just stuck with what you had.
Right. Yep. Right.
Sacred Stones, which is Fire Emblem 8, the third and final GBA game, added like a promotion tree. Every character's base class was set, but like when you promoted, you had a choice of like 2 you wanted to go into. So like a knight could be either a general or a great knight, and a cavalier could either be a great knight or a paladin. As an example. So that added a little more diversity to it.
Right.
And it's changed as the games have gone along. Like they removed the class tree at one point. Shadow Dragon added the ability to class change. Awakening had like second seals, so you could like change classes and like gain skills, yada yada. Fates brought the sort of the split tree back, which was cool, and they also had like a second seal type system, but it was a little more limited. It's a little more limited. Three Houses just throws that all out the window, and they're like, you know what? You got a character. You start in a base class. It's either called Noble or Commoner, and then you can. I think the second tier has like 3 or 4 classes. There's There's
4.
Myrmidon.
There's 4.
There's Myrmidon. There's Fighter. There's Soldier, and Monk.
Yes.
Monk is the magic one. Myrmidon is sword. Fighter is axes.
Right.
And Soldier is lances.
Yeah. Something like that.
And then from there, like it just kind of expands.
Oh, it goes crazy.
So in theory, I really like this system to be able to choose whatever you want.
Oh,
my internet cut out for a second.
Yep,
sorry.
You're okay. You're back.
It's cool. It makes diversity in playthroughs where you can like vary your class choices for if you play the same route and just like vary your class choices for the different characters. Though the game does have like kind of like I wouldn't say like doesn't tell you what class to be, but like
it gives you a hint. It does give you a hint.
It gives you hints. Like characters have boons and certain things that are like, oh, this person's good at like bows, so we'll make them like a sniper or something. But theoretically, you can make anyone anything. If you turn Raphael into a mage, that probably
it definitely. Oh, another tech issue.
Yep, another blip. Another Spectrum's doing me dirty right now.
Another one. You're back again. Raphael as a mage, probably not the best option. Though.
Yeah, probably not the best of idea, but you could do it if you wanted to. In practice, I like it not quite as much, and here's why. It makes it so map design is a little difficult for the developers because they just don't know what your team composition is going to be like. They don't know what units you're going to have, so they just like make a big map and put a lot of units on it, and it's like, all right, go kill stuff.
Mm-hmm. Another blip.
Yeah, it's
It's
like 2
bad.
seconds,
It's
and then it
bad.
comes back. Map design, in my opinion, in Three Houses is not very good. There are some interesting maps, but there are a lot of reused maps, and
Mm-hmm.
most here and there. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, it's just like a big map with a lot of enemies on it. Go kill the enemies.
Yeah. Let me talk about
Okay,
that real quick. Because you're
go ahead.
getting blips. So,
Yeah, I'm
which
getting
is,
blips.
yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate. Spectrum's doing you dirty. So the class system in this game, I think, is really cool. I'll talk about why it's cool, and then I'll talk about why it's not cool. And why it's not cool is because of what I'm doing right now in my maddening mode. It's really cool to have a lot of different options for characters, especially when you go into the teaching segment and you figure out, oh, this character's actually pretty good in a skill that I didn't expect. Like Hilda is really good in heavy armor. So you could initially you see her and go, oh, she's pretty tanky. She's pretty strong, but you see this heavy armor. You go, okay, this is an obvious choice to potentially go heavy armor and just make her your tank, complete tank, and it makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting. There's others too that I've seen where you see it, like Claude, for example, has a boon in something, and you're just like, oh, I didn't expect that. I need to spec into that. There's some where you see boons and things you don't expect, and you spec into it, and it works really well. There's others where you see a boon, I think there's a character with a boon in spears. I think it's Marianne. She has a boon in spears, and I'm looking at it, and I'm going, I would never, ever, 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 ever give her a spear.
And Annette on Blue Lions, who's like this dainty little mage girl, has a boon and axes.
Yeah, which was like what? So in theory, it's kind of interesting, and in that kind of practice, it's like, okay, why does she have a boon? Did the developers think that it would come into play at all? Also, she gets a skill with axe prowess, and I looked at that, and I was just like, no.
Why?
Developer, no. If you're gonna give her that, give her a secret hidden stat boost in strength or something. Which it doesn't exist, by the way. Here's what I don't like about it. You could cheese. Cheesing is a thing. In my run, I can tell you the 3 classes I use right now. 3.
Yep.
Wyvern Lords, Pegasus Riders, Mages. I need nothing else.
Yeah.
There is no reason.
That was going to be my number 2, basically what you're talking about. After map design, is the class balance is atrocious.
It's horrible.
It's so bad. There are clear really broken amazing classes, and there are clear just terrible classes.
There's an argument that Claude is the most powerful character in the game.
Wyvern Lord, or obviously Claude's
Special.
Personal class,
Yeah.
which is a Wyvern class, is the most broken garbage I've seen in a Fire Emblem. I don't know ever, but it's Wyverns are just busted garbage in this game.
It's insane. I have, like I said, those are the 3 classes. The only other class I have is Petra. Petra's the sword. I gave her a sword, and eventually I'll give her a bow or something, because that's assassin, I guess. But it's just crazy. I need nothing else. You get Lysithea to nuke. You got Wyvern Lords and Pegasus Knights to just fly all over the place and destroy everything. There's why do you need any of these other classes? And I guess if you want to be creative and just mess and just play a wholesome experience, you do that, which I did.
Yeah, everyone does their first time. Everyone does that their first time.
And I will say there are characters that are good in their class tree. Raphael is a really strong character in his class tree. You just make him a brawler straight up. Amazing character. So tanky. Can just sustain for forever. But
that self heal combat art
where self heal is crazy strong. But you look at it after you play it and you go, wow, those Wyvern Lords are really good. Pegasus Riders are pretty dang good. When you can't get that.
Wyvern Lords are good in every stat that matters. Strength, speed, and they're pretty tanky too. They have high HP and defense.
Yeah.
Everything else is maybe not that great, but it doesn't matter because those are your offensive stats, and they're tanky enough that they can take some hits.
That's all you need. That's all you need, and
They
that's
one shot. They like one round everything. They have Kanto, which is broken. Kanto's the move again thing, by the way. Like when you
yes,
attack and get to move again after you
so
perform
good,
an
and
action. Kanto is ridiculous.
that's why in maddening you use Pegasus Riders and Wyvern Lord
Yeah.
because they can move again.
I mean,
Um,
flyers are good in like every Fire Emblem game just because of their utility of being able to like fly around, or if it's a game with like rescuing, they're good with like rescue dropping.
uh
Um, they can like go snipe enemies like over mountains.
right.
They have good stats. Like sometimes Pegasus Knights are a little like their strength can be a little. They somehow managed to make flyers like even more broken in this game. I don't know how they did it,
Oh,
and
they're the best.
they made some other classes that were like good previously, like not as good. Like Paladin sucks in
Oh,
this
Paladin's
game.
bad. Paladin's
Like
really bad.
it still has Kanto because it's great, but they have a speed penalty. They get like minus 10% growth to like speed as a Paladin. I'm like, why? Like why? Why
Yeah,
did you
no,
make the
don't.
class bad? Like
Paladin's bad. Like I remember making what's her name, the orange hair. Why am I forgetting it?
Leone.
Leone made her Paladin. I was like, I regret this. Um, that's why I put her, and now she's going to
And
become a
and
Wyvern or
honestly,
Pegasus. Got another cutout.
like
There you go.
Armor Knight is pretty terrible in my opinion as well.
Yeah, Armor Knight's pretty bad.
They have such a huge hit to speed, and speed is such an important stat just like in the game in general, like for anything, I guess, unless you're like Scythia, where she just one because her speed kind of sucks, but like she just one shots everything, so
Hmm.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it
um
doesn't matter.
but like their speed is just so low. They have high HP and they have high defense, but like literally everything else on Arbor Knights is terrible. Like, and I guess that's kind of true in the past as well, but I just feel like it's more drastic in this one.
It's really
Like,
bad. I can just say right now that the like I said, there's like three classes you want to do realistically speaking in this maddening mode. There's no reason to go into anything else unless like you really need something. Like again, Petra having a bow is going to be really important. If you need someone to be able to shoot down those flyers, like for that. But this is the one thing that I think the class system failed on is in practice. If you're being a little serious about it, there, there's a lot of choice and yet there's no choice. It's like
yeah,
it's like I have like three different ice cream flavors that I know are my favorites and are the
the
best.
best.
And I
The
get
other ones
three.
are
There's
there, but
like
why would I
all
ever
the other
pick them?
ones. Like there's
Like,
tons of choice, and it's great for other people when it makes sense. Like the ice cream store could make sense, but here it just doesn't feel like the choice was relevant. I would have liked it if some choices were locked off for certain character types. We'll say,
yeah.
just to promote more diversity, because really there isn't any. So
The other thing, my last issue with the class system in this game is the master classes. Like some of them, there's no good promotion from advanced to master class. It's like
yes,
paladin has no upgrade. It's like I guess there's great knight, but that's like an armor. Like you have to train in armor and
yes.
axes. And it's like, wait, why? Like, and then like swordmaster, you could go to mortal savant, but why do I want to train magic on my swordmaster? That makes no sense. Like,
Yeah, like there's no
a
good options.
and for mages as well, like unless like female mages get Gremory and
Hmm.
Gremory's great. But like Dark Knight and whatever the White Knight is called, it's Holy
Holy
Knight, I
Knight.
think, is like you get a mount, which is awesome, but like again, mounts in this game, you get a penalty to your speed if you take a mount, and like that sucks. Speed is really important.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. I'm just looking through it again. So
And I think they also lose like Black Tome Fair and stuff like that, and they just get like the uses maybe. I don't know. Like the master classes were like cool, but like they needed more. They needed like more upgrades from
yeah,
the advanced classes instead of like side grades or like. And again, for some of the mage ones to go to like Dark Knight, you had to train like riding and then like lances or something like. Why do I want to trade?
yeah, no, it makes no sense. It
So yeah,
it
I
it makes no sense. I'm with you there. I'm like looking through all this stuff too. Like Gremory, I just realized this is female only.
yeah,
So
it's
if you're
female
male,
only.
You get sort of stuck with Dark Knight. I guess Mortal Savant has reason, but I'm not sure I'm not sure if they can do healing.
No,
Um,
no. You need well, also for Mortal Savant, you need like A swords.
yeah.
So
Well, for male, for like for example, for Byleth, if you wanted to do some reason, you could do Mortal Savant. I mean, that's a good option. Just looking at it, because Byleth typically gets swords, to go off
yeah,
well. But like, yeah, I'm looking at it, like if you're a male caster, you're basically a Mortal Savant or a
or a
Dark
Dark Knight or
Knight,
Holy
which
Knight
Dark
or
Knight
Holy
is
Knight.
not good because you need land. Dark Knight's just not good. There's like, yeah, the master classes I think really failed. Do you need also like Byleth is going to do Enlightened one. There's no reason not to do Enlightened one.
I mean, unless you're gonna make him or her a Wyvern Lord, which is better because it's Wyvern
I just I
busted.
also
But
saw that yeah, Claude has Wyvern Master or Barbarossa.
those are his like
Yeah,
his unique
yeah.
classes.
So and then there's Dave, which you. So anyway, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
like lots of class choices. Realistically, though, there's some shortcomings, and I think they fail in some certain parts of that system. But it was like it's a good try. I think it's a good try. They'll hopefully clean that up a little bit. I do
yeah,
appreciate the effort because it is an interesting idea.
yeah. It's cool. Again, it was cool in concept. I think it doesn't work quite as well in practice because of
Right.
the issues that we mentioned. The balance and then like the map design suffers because they just don't know what your team is gonna look like, so they just gotta throw enemies at you.
Right. So, all right. I'm gonna segue a forced segue. I'm sorry, I have to force a segue here because we
Yeah,
are going pretty far into time.
yeah. We're going long. We're going long.
So let's go straight into our series favorites and least favorites. Allow production to set up. You know, give production some time here. Production's trying really hard today.
They're doing their
Uh,
best.
Production's really trying. We'll start with favorites, and then I'll go to
Start
least favorites.
start with favorites.
And I forgot to add a header for least favorite. So, oh no, I did add a least favorite header. Let's start with favorites. Um, Mine is kind of obvious, so I'll just do it quickly because I already said it last week. So I'm just going to go over it again. I just really like Three Houses for everything I said last week, even with some of the shortcomings we talked about. It's a really enjoyable game. I really like the intrigue of all the sort of end game conclusions and all the goals that each of those lords had to go through. And it was a very fun experience with all the stuff packaged together. So, like I said, mine was more obvious, so I just wanted to start with it because I talked about it last week. Go ahead,
Okay.
Spoon.
All right. I'll mention a couple. So let's see. Three Houses is my second favorite. I'll
Mm-hmm.
just say that. I will talk briefly. Again, you don't have a thing for this. My third favorite is Radiant Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure a lot of people would agree with this, but I don't know what it is about the game. I like it. I like the story. I like the characters. The structure of the game is a little annoying with the like part one, two, three, four. The way it's
Mm-hmm.
split. The game's really long. The Dawn Brigade sucks. And Har is like one of the most broken units in Fire Emblem history.
I
He's
forgot.
the Wyvern. He's the Wyvern Lord in that
Oh
game.
yes,
Oh, Har and Jill, like Jill's the other Wyvern rider. Har and Jill are just
R
busted
is
garbage. But like
yeah.
again, the speed run for Radiant Dawn, they just call Fire Emblem Radiant Har because they just solo the game with once you get him. Basically, it's just like okay, cool. Um,
Trying to find his character. Yeah, I
um,
remember this guy. He was a
but
monster.
but I like Radiant Dawn. I think it's a very fun game. It's epic. It's definitely like the grandest scale Fire Emblem game in my opinion. It's a sequel, so like there's like third tier promotions. The characters get super powerful. Again, I like the story. I think the game's cool. Uh, so that's just brief. That's just briefly on Radiant Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Russell saying Path of Radiance. I've only played Path of Radiance. I didn't love it when I played it. I don't know. It's kind of slow. Like I don't know. I know a lot of people like that game, but anyways, my favorite is Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, which is Fire Emblem 7. Um, it's a little bit of a nostalgia bias, I think, just because it's the first Fire Emblem game I ever played.
Mm-hmm.
Again, kind of like last week when I talked about Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix being my favorite game. If I really thought about it, like more critically, Three Houses is probably a better game, but I've played Blazing Sword like 5 or 6 times. I just love the game to death. It's so fun. Like, yeah, it's
Oh,
just it's just that classic Fire Emblem goodness. It's great.
yeah,
I
sure.
love I love If you haven't played the GBA games, go play them. They're so good. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Let me switch to least favorite now. Production value increase. Let's see. I'll go with my least favorite. So I've only played about I think 5 or 6 Fire Emblem games. I can't remember the number again, but the first one I played was Shadow Dragon. It's also the one I do not like as much as the others that I've played. Though that I've played. Um, this game was not memorable compared to the others. The only
yeah.
memorable thing I remember from it was like changing the class of Wolf and realizing he was an absolute monster. But that was really it. Like there was nothing about this game that I walked away from and said, "Oh, this was memorable. This was a special moment." Even Fates had memorable moments, bad and good, and it at least was an experience I sort of came away with something, even if it was like, yes, the game was not good, but Shadow Dragon wasn't good either, and it wasn't anything I would go home with and say, yeah, this was an experience I really enjoyed and want to do again. At least with Fates, there's like a certain level of things I can take away from it. Shadow Dragon has just nothing. There's just nothing I can take away from this game.
Yeah.
It's just like there's really nothing I could go into this game with and say, this was something.
It was a game.
It was a game, and
It
that's
was a
it.
strategy it was a strategy RPG. There you
And
go.
that's it. And that's why it's my least favorite. Because at least Fates was something. It tried different things. It even like brought a hub into the game. It was uninspired, yes, but it was trying some new stuff. I know Shadow Dragon's a remake of the first one, so there's like a bit of that in there, but
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, cool, decent strategy game, whatever.
Yep.
Spoon.
Yep. So Shadow Dragon is my second least favorite. Again, I agree with everything Otto said. Basically, it's very, it's just kind of there. There's absolutely nothing special about Shadow Dragon. To be fair to it, it is a remake of the very first Fire game,
Mm-hmm.
so they were limited in what they could do with it. But even the graphics are like look kind of crappy. Like they're pretty unimpressive, and like we're definitely a downgrade from the amazing sprite art of the Game Boy Advance games.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my 2 cents on Shadow Dragon real quick. My least favorite, you might have guessed because we've talked about it at length already
Yep.
today, is Fates FE14. Um, sh-
Oh, we got a Spectrum. Hold on.
Wait for my internet
Okay,
to
go
come
ahead. Go
back. There
ahead.
it is.
We're good.
Shadow Dragon to me is just there. It's kind of unintrusive. It's not great. It's not terrible either. Fates to me is just bad. Like I hate this. Like the story to me actively detracts from the game.
Mm-hmm.
I hated what they did with getting rid of weapon durability. Like they tried a lot of things in Fates, and the problem is I didn't like a lot of what they tried. Some people probably did, and you are perfectly welcome to disagree with me and tell you how much you hate me because your favorite game is Fates and you disagree with me. But I didn't like how they got rid of weapon durability and made it so that like the stronger weapons were just like if you wanted to use like a silver lance or something, you lost like 4 speed and 4 defense or whatever it was when you used it. The debuffing thing was annoying. Ninjas were super annoying to fight against because they
Oh
just debuff you
God,
for frickin' days.
I
And like,
forgot about
and then and
ninjas.
then all you do is just like, oh, you got debuffed by a ninja. Just sit there for 6 turns.
We got Spectrum, but ninjas are the worst. I'll just say that right
Yeah,
now.
it's
Ninjas were
like
the
yeah,
worst.
let's just sit there for 6 turns while our stats recover. That's stupid.
Oh,
Um, as I said, the story is awful. The characters are uninteresting. The implementation of child characters was very shoehorned in and awful. Um, Splitting the game into like 3 games that you had to buy separately was awful. Um, Corrin is annoying and not a good main character in my opinion, and is just worshipped. What else did I dislike about Fates? Um,
sorry, something. Hear me?
I know there's more, but I'm not thinking like yeah, like some of the some of the maps in Conquest are like cool. There's good map,
Yeah, the maps are pretty good.
but
Yeah.
overall as a package, I dislike Fates
No, Fates
quite a lot.
is not an enjoyable game. Now, I will highlight to close this. We did poll people. I do want to bring this up. We did poll some people. I think Three Houses was just among most people the most entertaining game. We did a poll on Twitter and a straw poll because we put all the games there. The straw poll was, very split just because there were more options. So, which, it happens. There's more options, so people pick their specific game option. So I won't really talk about that one just because it was all split between like 5 different games. But
Yeah, we had one vote for 5 different games.
yeah, it
So
was just like
mine
whatever.
mine for Blazing Sword, Auto for
Three Houses is mine, and yeah, some I forgot who else voted. I didn't see.
I'm pretty sure we had a vote for Sacred Stones, which
Yes.
to me would be Blue because I know Blue's favorite game is Sacred Stones.
Yeah.
We had a vote for Binding Blade. I don't know whose that is, and we had a vote for Fates as well.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
yeah.
but the Twitter one we did get, Three Houses, which I kind of expected. I was just curious to see.
Okay, Mason was Binding Blade. Okay.
Somebody voted Fates though, which I'm curious
So
about.
some people really like Fates, and
Yeah.
I know that for a fact. I know there are lots of there are portions of the community that like swear by Fates and Awakening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Fates is an interesting one though. Sorry, Spoon's getting Spectrum hard, so I'm like trying to fill in the dead air because he's getting
Yeah,
annihilated, and I feel bad.
I'm getting destroyed by Spectrum right now.
So
I'm not
yeah,
going to tell you your opinion is wrong because you like Fates. It's just not mine.
it's just yeah,
Like
it's just not
I
ours.
dislike. As I said, I dis as a more classic Fire Emblem fan, Fates changed way too much and had way too many things that I disliked about it. Like it's my least favorite for a
Right.
reason. So.
So yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because we did poll. I was curious about the results. I expected Three Houses. Not, you know, not disappointed in that expectation, but somebody voted Fates, which I'm curious about. I would love
Yeah,
to if that person did just come forward and say what they liked
yeah,
about it. I don't think I
yeah.
want to like dissuade a person from voting for their favorite game because like I
No,
know
no,
some
please.
bad games that I like some people don't like and I like. My
Yeah.
classic example is like I love the King of Dragons and like some people don't, and that's fine.
Yeah, if you're the person who voted for Fates, or if you are just a person who are watching this and you really like Fates or any other, feel free to post a comment on the YouTube video.
Yeah, I I would be genuinely curious to hear about it. Really. So, um, I'm gonna wind down for
Yeah,
this
let's
now.
do it.
Let's close it. Partly because Spoon's getting destroyed, and also we're hitting a long
Yeah,
time here, and I want to wind down.
yep. And we
Um,
gotta we're hungry boys. We gotta eat dinner.
yeah, I mean, really, come on. So let's everybody, whoever watched, thank you. One thing I will ask before I get into the official closing is, please do share this out to anybody you know, a friend, family member who might be interested. Every little bit counts. I can just tell you,
Discord servers, Twitter,
yes, I can just
anything.
tell you specifically about the power of word of mouth for marketing, like in a very long span. But I'll just tell you right now, word of mouth is really powerful. Please help, and we'll do what we can. Obviously, um, please be sure to follow us on Twitter. Like I said, each of us individually posts about this, but also the Myriathon Twitter channel officially will post polls, and we'll also have the stream going live on it because there's a bot going through it. Um, Again, just knocking through the Myriathon before we sell ourselves out. The Myriathon Twitch channel, please give it a follow. And if interested in more, please like support us even further. I will say if you do want to support, please use the exclamation point donate. That will also be linked into the YouTube and SoundCloud for the people in the descriptions. But that is our Tiltify for the direct relief efforts. Please do direct some effort to that if you can. I know right now it's kind of a strenuous time for people, but if you have the ability to contribute, please do so because it's really important to people who are in this really tough situation, and doing various different things that do need this help. And finally, if you're on YouTube and you're watching on YouTube and enjoy the YouTube VODs, please like it, subscribe to the channel. It's always helpful. And SoundCloud as well. If you do like the SoundCloud VODs, please do so. And I'll see if I can continue putting them up on SoundCloud, but I think I'll have to start paying eventually. So we'll see. Finally, let us touch upon the Myriathon Rescue, which will be in June 11th to 14th, which will be benefiting Exodus Road or Direct Relief. Right now, there's a bit of like chatter with it internally on what we're going to do for that.
If the COVID-19 or coronavirus is still kind of going around at that point, we may swap to that. But then the next Myriathon, we would do Exodus Road.
I think
we're not
so.
forgetting about them.
Yeah.
So
okay, and then finally, you can support our Twitters. I'm not going to talk about my Twitch because I don't really stream to it anymore. But my Twitter is at Automaton89. I'll be posting updates on Myriacast, and I sometimes stream to the Myriathon channel. I've been playing Octopath Traveler on it as part of the direct relief efforts. And Spoon, go ahead, whatever you want to promote. Oh my God, he got Spectrum right.
Literally,
right.
It was good for the past like 5 minutes, and as soon as you threw it to me, it blipped.
Oh, beautiful!
What a night, dude. Yeah, I'm SPT Spoon on basically anything. Discord, Twitter, Twitch. Yeah, at SPT Spoon / SPT Spoon. I have a YouTube channel, but I don't really upload to it. Like when I used to do speedruns, that's where I kind of logged them. But don't worry about that. I don't really use it. Yeah. If you like what we're doing, please follow us and the Myriathon. Please, Otto said, spread the word as much as you can. Any little bit helps. We'd like to see this grow into something cool.
That's right. Especially if I'm adding production value. That's for sure.
Yeah.
If we are both adding production value, particularly if I'm putting them in this stuff, I do want to make sure that we're trying to spread the word as much as possible. And if you like these conversations, also, I will comment, if anybody is interested in hearing a specific topic about a game that we may know about or we've talked about before, that would be something you can post somewhere to any of those, or just send us a message.
Yep.
Because we are
messages on Discord servers.
Always looking for topics because we're not 100% sure what we're doing next week, for example. So that'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Fire Emblem for 2 hours today. We probably could probably keep going for another 2 hours. We didn't touch on a lot of the games,
there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff.
But we're not going to talk about Fire Emblem every week. Maybe we'll come back to it at some point, but it'll probably be a while.
Right.
So, yeah.
So, like I said, that'll be about it. Thank you for those of you who watched. And if you are watching on some other channel, we are going to be live again next Monday around 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And we hope to see you all there in the Twitch channel. So thank you very much for joining, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Have a good night.